Hey everybody, what's happening? I'm back with another quick film review for you, and today I'm going to be taking a look at the Odyssey. So this is Christopher Nolan's Odyssey, as he directed it and also wrote the screenplay. It is, of course, an adaptation based on the poem by Homer that came out about 2,700 years ago. The film stars Matt Damon, Anne Hathaway, Tom Holland, Robert Pattinson, John Leguizamo, Lupita Nyong'o, Samantha Morton, John Bernthal, Charlize Theron, Elliot Page, and Zendaya. So it's quite a massive cast. Here, no spoilers for the review, at least not at first. Okay, I'm not going to spoil anything when I talk about the film, and then I'm going to score it, and then I'm going to give you a spoiler warning, and then I'm going to properly criticize it. Because in order to properly criticize it and talk about things I didn't really care for, I got to reveal kind of what happened, right? So, yeah, it's been out about a week and a half now, so a lot of people have already seen it. But I do recommend the film, and it was great that I finally got to see this movie with some good friends, Marissa, Kara, and her boyfriend Jason. Does it live up to the hype, though? That's the question. Well, some critics think it's a masterpiece. Some think it's super pretentious. So here are my thoughts. Okay, so it's clocking in at about 173 minutes. It's nearly a 3-hour epic film, but it goes by pretty quickly. It's a good adaptation. I wouldn't call it a great one, though. It actually could have been longer, quite frankly. I've seen many versions of this tale put to the screen, and there are some things missing in this modernized version. Some characters and events that I was hoping to see, but I didn't. I guess they didn't want the film to be too long, right? Our bladders would explode. But that's why we need an intermission for movies that are about 3 hours or longer, I would say. Yes, that's a good idea, I think. Anyway, I don't know if everyone's on board with it, but I like the idea. Everyone had to take a pee break at some point during this movie, of course. All right. So, of course, the movie is very well directed. Nolan's choices of shots have always been impressive throughout his career, and this film is no different. It's got beautiful locations, especially the cliffs, the rocks and the edges of the cliffs here in Ireland and Scotland and other places where they shot the film. The islands just look amazing. Visual effects and the sound effects were both very impressive. The performances are all very good. I thought Damon and Hathaway were excellent. Pattinson and Samantha Morton, though, I think were the standouts, quite frankly. Now, the plot, if you don't know, again, like no spoilers, but this is a 2,700-year-old film tale, but at the same time, not everyone's seen it. So, okay, so no spoilers for this part. The plot is that it begins with the Greeks finally defeating the Trojans after like a decade of fighting them. They're wanting to take over Troy for taking their queen, Helen. So it's all thanks to the Trojan horse trick by Odysseus, who is the most cunning and wise of all the Greeks, the king of Ithaca. And once the battle's over, once they've sacked Troy, they intend to travel back to Ithaca to celebrate with their loved ones, but they have unfortunately defied the gods, and so karma takes place, and they send the men off course, and they go from shore to shore in search of food, while on each journey they find a more and more and more dangerous um, bunch of people and situations, and they lose more and more men. They encounter these mythical creatures, giants, demigods, and a man-hating sorceress. Is the film historically accurate? Not really. I mean, it's a modern telling with some modern dialogue, but when fantastical creatures are involved, you just kind of think, this movie was probably more like their Star Wars, or Lord of the Rings. This was their epic fantasy tale that they were told as children for a long, long time, back in ancient Greece. But it's a story with a lot of characters that may have existed, certainly. But when we're talking about a cyclops and witches and six-headed snakes and stuff, it's kind of like, I don't know if that really happened. Sounds more just like mythology. So historical accuracy is kind of like, it's out the window. this is a Hollywood movie, like, who cares? I don't really care too much about historical accuracy, not too much anyway, in this case. I'm not gonna get into the debatable casting choices here, not really. I mean, there were some online discussions about, Lupita and Charlize should have swapped roles as Helen and Calypso, respectively. I think that would have worked too, but it doesn't matter. Beautiful woman's a beautiful woman. And so, they could have played either role. It doesn't matter. They were fine. And the Elliot Page thing is, beyond ridiculous. Of course, some YouTubers made a big deal out of it because Paige was rumored to play Achilles, a part previously played by a buff, sexy Brad Pitt in the film Troy, which was an adaptation of Homer's other famous poem, of course, the Iliad. But that was never true. Paige was never supposed to be Achilles, and Paige was never Achilles. Ignore rumors and speculation. Wait for the facts, folks. Elliot Page actually plays Sinon, a brave warrior. He's important in helping the Greeks win, but he's also not in the movie very much anyway. So, moving past that nonsense, the film is good, but it could have been truly great if it just used more mythology, more gods. Zendaya's Athena isn't really that impressive of a presence. She wasn't that goddess like, in my book. She would just kind of appear and disappear. So this film, it kind of reminded me more of The Return, the Ray Fiennes film about Odysseus coming home, and so the whole movie is kind of like the third act of this movie, and that movie had zero gods in it, like no gods at all. It was very human. The American accents. Okay, so the American accents are a bit strange to hear for this kind of a tale. Even the British actors had American accents. I guess Nolan just wanted them all to match. But one Greek actor or actress, with or maybe just an actor with an accent, that would have been fine. That would have been nice to see. We've seen Gerard Butler, a Scotsman, pull it off in 300 as King Leonidas. Hey, why couldn't they have one person, sound Greek? I guess it wouldn't match with the rest of them, and then we'd be confused. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, John Leguizamo's character, he does seem miscast at first, although he does give a very touching performance. He's very good in the movie. Nothing against John, of course, but this role would have been perfect for a Greek actor. Just saying, just saying. But in the end, I mean, if accents don't matter, right, then why not throw in a few Greeks and a few actual Greeks into this movie? You could have got Marina Sirtis from Star Trek Next Generation. She's half Greek, half English. She could have played, like, a small role in it or something. But no, they didn't do that. It's too bad. Um, it was a bit like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, except, instead of the lead character, Robin Hood, played by Kevin Costner, instead of him being the only American when all the other characters were very English. This whole cast is American in the Odyssey, so it's kind of like, okay, that's certainly not historically accurate, but then again, that's something that we're used to. Traditionally, that's always been the case. It's been American and English actors pulling off epic movies set in France and Germany and Italy or wherever they are. So I guess that's just par for the course. It's been that way for a long time. The wrong accents don't really bother me too much because they're all the same. It's very consistent. So that's objectively good, I guess. I just wish that they had a few more Greek actors. Um, but in terms of the stuff that they left out, it would have been nice to see a version that had everything that the original story had to offer. Um, making it longer and having an intermission, I think, is a good idea. The pacing was a bit jarring as Odysseus is telling Calypso his story, so it goes back and forth through time. It was okay. I think I would have preferred a more linear telling, but that works. That's okay. The third act went on a bit long, but the ending was good. I think they wrapped it up really well. This type of escapist entertainment, it goes by fast for the most part, so it is very entertaining, and you certainly won't be bored by this film, even if you have little issues here and there. It certainly won't bore you. So hats off to Mr. Nolan for pulling off a good version of the Odyssey, and I'm going to give this film an 8 out of 10. All right, on to the spoilers. So, spoiler alert, I'm going to start talking about this movie right now. So, tune out if you haven't seen it, unless you already know the story, in which case, there's no spoilers. All right, so this good modern version, it did leave out some important stuff, like the gods, like The only god is Athena? Really? And she's basically a ghost, in this movie. She doesn't do anything uh, amazing or anything in this movie. We would have liked to have seen Hermes, the messenger of the gods. Would like to have seen the god of wind. I mean, that's a whole sequence they cut out of the film where Odysseus's men they're almost home, and then they open this mythical bag of wind that they're not supposed to, thinking it's gold, and it blows them completely way off course, and it starts them like way back again. Because that would have been a nice heartbreaking scene. I would have liked to have seen that put to film. um, and where's Poseidon? Poseidon is the god of the sea. Where is he? Jeez, I don't know. I was disappointed by lack of gods. Could have used more gods. In the Cyclops scene, I was a bit disappointed that there was no pun to the, my name is nobody scene when Odysseus stabs the Cyclops in the eye, and they say, who did this? And nobody did it. Ah, ha, ha, nobody did it. So, the other Cyclopses that are coming to help are confused and they turn around and go home. So that was a funny thing, and I wish that was in the movie. Why the Cyclops doesn't speak at first, and then he does after while he's in pain, I thought was pretty strange. I think Nolan was going for pure horror here, as some of the men are being eaten alive by the Cyclops, who never engages in conversation with the men. So there's, in the end, the result is that there's really no sympathy for the Cyclops. He's just this big monster. The Cyclops is actually Poseidon's son, though, and he gets revenge by telling his father the name of the one who hurt him, after Odysseus foolishly tells him, "It was me, Odysseus! It wasn't nobody! It was me! I'm the greatest Greek ever!" It's a moment of arrogance, and that does not happen in the film. It happens in the tale, but not in this film. I guess Nolan figured Damon's character, is supposed to be smart. He's supposed to be wise and cunning, so he wouldn't make that foolish error, even though he does in the original story. The Greeks are punished regardless, anyway, even if the gods don't show up in person. So it's just different and a little disappointing. There's a lack of sex in the film. I thought there was like pretty much no sex appeal going on here, even though some characters like Circe are supposed to be seductive. Calypso's another one, you know. Because there really wasn't much time for that. Circe just turns out to be this witch, this sorceress who hates men, probably for good reasons. Not all men are good, of course. It was almost a Me Too moment in that scene, I'll tell you. But Odysseus shows her that some men are good. All they wanted was food and shelter. That's Zeus's law. To really adhere to that, instead of not trusting any man, and then we'll turn them into pigs. The pig transformation scenes were really great. Instead of just one of his men informing Odysseus about the men turning into pigs, Odysseus figures it out for himself. So that's a tiny change. That's not a big deal. Hades was disappointing. That was just a shore on a beach. In other tales, he goes underground. Odysseus goes way underground into the fiery pits of Tartarus and, the Hades or whatever they call it. To get the answers he needs. It really did lack the weight of actually walking through hell. That would have been a really cool scene. The film is a tad overhyped, sure. Some audiences may go in with their expectations too high. It's not really the film's fault, though. I thought that the original score was actually good, too. I got to mention that. So, Nolan, he does a great job with the task that he's given. It's not his best film, but it is definitely a good one, worth seeing in the theater, especially IMAX. So if you can do IMAX, do IMAX. I would love to know what you guys thought about the film. Let me know in the comments below. All right, so that's it for my non-spoiler and then spoiler review of The Odyssey. Modern tale with modern dialogue. But it works. It does work overall. All right, that's it for me, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to this review. And until next time, I'll see you at the movies.